Hello, everybody. Welcome. We are here for our Monday night study session. We are back after a short break. I hope everybody's doing fantastic. So we're going to be doing Brandon Sanderson's study session, lecture number 4. We do have the information pinned in the comments if you want to click on the link because we will not be playing the video. Also, all the information is scrolling down at the bottom. So before we get started on the lecture, I'm going to let my friends and study buddies introduce themselves. We'll start with Esther and swing it on back around.
Hello, I am Esther Marie Andujar. I'm a Puerto Rican writer aspiring to be a hybrid career author. You can find me here on YouTube under Esther Marie Andujar. I do stream on Friday evenings at 6 p.m. Eastern, and I randomly around in the interwebs. So yeah, that's me, Becca.
Hello, my name is Becca C. Smith, and I have a YouTube channel, which I've actually been posting on lately, which is a miracle. Yeah, I am a writer, and I do books and screenplays, which is why I'm finding this thing so fascinating. And also looking ahead on this little list is that says the next one, not the one we're doing tonight, but the next one is what books do better than movies. I feel like this is going to be controversial. Yeah, and that's me, YouTuber, writer.
Hi everyone, I'm Chandra Arthur, half of Flash Fiction Live and co-author of the 1,000 Word series, and sometimes YouTuber, mostly on Threads. And I'll be presenting at the upcoming AWC 2025, so keep an eye out for that.
And you're here on my channel. I'm Nia, the Vixen of Fiction, all over the internet. I write things, I draw things, I make things, I do all kinds of things. And I guess I could say I'm a YouTuber too sometimes. And I'm a mom of 4 and a Loki mom and all of that cool stuff that goes along with that. Yeah. So that is me. I will be back to streaming. For those of you who are wondering, I will be back to streaming my Tuesday night writes sometime I think I'm going to start back the second week of July, so you can come hang out with us and get some things done. I usually do those with my friends, and then I'm on Twitch where you can come hang out with me while I do attempt to do productive things on Mondays and Fridays. So that is me. Again, we are going to be taking Brandon Sanderson's lecture number 4. This one is the plot theory question and answer. So you can find it linked in the chat. It's either to the side or it's down below, depending on how you're watching this. If you cannot stream 2 things at one time, we're going to have a timer going to let you know where we are in the video, but you can go ahead and cut us off and go watch the video and then come back. And if you are, if you ever think that some people like to watch at 2 times speed, I don't know anyone who likes to watch it slower, but if you do watch it slower and you just kind of want to know where we're at, you can just click and you'll see where we're at in the timer. That way you can continue on or know if you need to speed it up to catch up or whatever. But we will not be playing Brandon Sanderson's video ourselves. Please send that traffic over to Brandon's channel. He's giving this lecture for free to all of us, so please send that traffic right over there. We just want to have a discussion and talk about all the things that he talks about afterwards and how it applies to us and things that we found helpful or things that we think, what is he talking about? You never know. So we're just like you guys, right? So you're going to get our live reactions to it. I have watched the lectures before. Some are the same, some have evolved. So it's interesting to see what's different and what's stayed the same. I think, Chandra, you've also seen them. Everybody's seen them all except for Becca.
Yes. The one that owns all his books.
Yeah. The biggest fan hasn't seen them all. So yeah, so that is us. I think most of us have read some or all of Brandon Sanderson's works. We know of it. I've got several over on my bookshelf. I haven't read everything, but I've read quite a bit. So I'm very familiar with Brandon Sanderson as a fan from a distance. Don't know the guy,
Yeah,
but he sounds like a nice guy.
he does.
All right. Anything else, anybody, before we dive in? Because I've actually got to get the timer pulled up because I haven't done this in a minute, so I forgot that I needed to do that.
I was glad for the extra time last week because I ended up being pretty busy and so, but I've been looking forward to getting back into this. I did forget that this was a Q&A episode, so I think this is the first time we're taking notes on a Q&A episode and like watching that and chatting through that, so that'll be interesting. It'll be something different for us too.
Yep. I'm curious to see what what everybody else is going to ask the people in his class, because a good number of the people in his class have taken his lecture before, like they're return students. So I'm curious to see what everybody's questions are, and I'm sure we will get some of his anecdotes and stories because he loves to tell those. So those are always fun.
I do think it's interesting that people who have taken this class before have like since written a book or several books and now come back to take the class again. I think that says something about the effectiveness of the class overall. But I would be curious to see if there are people who've taken it more than 2 times and why.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Just
like, is there like they think, oh well, this is a guaranteed way that he has to read my work because of papers and things like that. Like sometimes,
so
yeah.
this big lecture class, he does not do that with them. There's a separate application only class that you have to be accepted to, and I think there's like 12 to 15 students in that class, and they workshop together.
Okay.
Yeah. And does he do it directly after this? I think he did it before like that. So they'll take this lecture, and then the small, I think they pay. I don't know if they pay, like, but they've applied to take it. And they go off into their smaller class, and I think they're broken up into their little study groups, which he says are very, very good. And that there's sometimes, I think, with his study group, the one that he had when he was in college, I think that all of them are writers or have some level of success in the writing industry.
There's
and they
one
kind
who wasn't a writer, and he like had never has been, was my understanding, and he was like the only person. They just, I guess, like to hang out with him, so they were like, "Hey, dear,
like,
you
look
can
at
come
you,
too."
look at you.
He gives good notes,
Yeah, which is always a good thing. So you've got that one person who's not a writer to give you that feedback. But I think it's fascinating that they've been able to have some success in their group together. So that's really cool. We do have some friends that are here hanging out to watch the study session with us, which is really cool. Hello, Gwenna and Shannon, and hello, Dee, and hello. Good to see you, and Adrian. I keep wanting to. I don't know. I'm thinking Sanderson, and I kept wanting to say Anderson, and I'm like, it's not Anderson. Stop, Adrian. Good to see you. All right, I've got it. Nope. No. You know what I clicked on us, so I'm about to double share us. Oh, man. It's been a minute. That's hilarious. Because I'm like, why are we there? Not the timer. Because I was going to share, it was going to be like an Inception, I think. That would have been interesting. All right. Let me find the right thing, the right timer. There we go. And we're going to full screen it so that it looks good. All right, you guys ready? If you've got your video ready. If you don't have your video ready, it's pinned to the top. Go ahead and click on it now, and we're getting ready to get started. In 3, 2, 1. We'll see you guys back after the lecture. It's going to mark the minutes. All right. Has everybody finished the video? We're
Yes.
good. All right. Awesome. Let
Welcome
me.
to our
Hang
bonus.
on. No. Stop talking, Brandon. We're good. We got it. I left it playing, so I forgot that he was going to say something. You know how the videos, YouTube.
Yeah.
Anyhow, all right. So, what did we think of the question and the Q&A?
The big timer's still up too.
Yeah, I'm grabbing it. There we go.
We're back.
Yes.
I'm good.
So what did we think? What did we think?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, like, it was interesting hearing him talk about like the multiple characters and doing outlines for each and everything like that. But I didn't really feel like he gave advice on that, on how overwhelming it can be when you do have that kind of amount of cast kind of thing. I don't really know what he could say, but but I think I'm just like at that point myself on like my fantasy novel where I'm all like, I just need help untangling my brain. Is there any way, anything you can give me? But I think that would actually have to be a question to ask him and see what he would say to that.
I go to his videos, or where did he say to put your questions? Ask. You never know. There might be a short with your name on it.
Yeah, you
never
know.
I would go look at his most recent video and put it as a comment under that, because I know he's pulling like comments from online.
Okay.
So whatever he has, if it's still running, he may still be able to work it in.
Yeah, and he does a lot of those. Sometimes when he's doing like his book signings, because he'll sit down and just do like an hour or two where he's just talking and answering questions and stuff. So I would find a place to ask it for sure. You never know. He might do a deep dive for you.
I'm glad you said that though, because that is the one spot where I don't have any notes and I have to go back to the timestamp. I wrote a timestamp down for each question.
Okay.
But there was somebody pulled up at the stop sign outside of my house blaring music.
Oh.
And I was so distracted, and I like got up to be like, what are you doing? Couldn't see anything. They pulled off. Got back in the house, and he was like mid-explanation. I was like, wait, no, I've missed everything.
Like, I want that one.
Yeah. But I have like 4-5 pages of notes for this one.
I can tell you it's between minute 48 and minute 101, because I put, whenever I remember, because I always take notes in my notebook, but every now and again I remember to put something in the chat. So it was between
39:20 was
39:20 is when when the music started for you. That makes sense.
Yeah.
See, I didn't manage to see this one before today, so I'm like, I need to pay attention. But I didn't realize, I put it on chat, I'm like, I forgot that I have pretty much all of my videos at 1.5 speed. So I'm like, they're commenting on things that I already saw, and then I look at them like, now I cannot, it doesn't matter if I stop, I'm still ahead.
I noticed that you commented on something, and I thought for a second when you made a comment, I was like, "Am I behind? Where are we?" And then it was like 5 minutes later,
I was
like,
ahead.
Esther's watching.
But that gave me time to get back to where because I remember the last time we talked, we were like, he did not explain promises, progress, and payoff, and he finally made it a concise definition between them. And I'm like, I need to go back to that part because I heard it, but I did. It was so. I was paying so much attention that I just couldn't like stop and write it. Right. So I was like, I'm ahead. I can go back and get that. So I was like searching. I know it's somewhere here.
What's the timestamp for that?
Yeah. So I'm like, finally, a concise way to define for him what promises, progress, and payoff is.
Yeah.
I'm like,
I'm not kidding though. I did miss that.
I get it.
I know, I'm so sorry.
It is. I put it on the chat. It is time. So I was this close to make a clip, and I'm like, Let's just stay in the moment. You can just go back and do the clip later.
Yeah.
No, you're good. I'm
And
glad
about
I will
a
go
lot of
back.
characters, when he talked about a lot of characters, I think the only thing semi useful he said was like, wrap one character and like send them to the ether and then move to the other one. And I'm like, but what do I do when I have tangled my character so much that I just cannot send them to the ether?
Right.
Yeah.
So I have a couple of things because I'm really, really bad about that. And here's where I am. For my big series, I have it broken down to like 2 characters per book that are like the primary focus. And it kind of gets passed from them. So the first book is a character who's there through the whole story, but has bits and pieces and has a reason for being able to share the things that they can share. So that's one way. The other way is when you're doing your read through, read for 1 or 2 characters at a time. I usually do a note card with a highlighter color and page flags that match that.
Mhm.
And then when you do your read through, you can highlight just on the margin the section. Okay, this section is for that character, this section is for that character. And then you can, when you do that really quick, you can go through and do a continuity read for that character specifically, instead of trying to
Okay.
do all of them all at the same time.
Right. I like
Huge
that.
fan of color coded highlighting to
Nice.
help you get back. Yep. Huge.
Mhm.
Yeah. Because
And that way
it can
too,
be. Go ahead.
you can see if there's a character that you like drop at a certain point in time,
Mhm.
because it's all like bright colors, right? You can be like, I haven't seen any light green in a while. What
They
happened to
vanished.
Jim Bob?
Right.
Jim Bob ceased to exist in this story. He shows up at the end with the hammer now.
But I literally, I'm doing that one with one fantasy project, and I was like, who is this guy?
Like, wait a minute.
I never heard of him. He does not come up again.
Wow.
That's so funny. Oh,
Yeah, that's tough. But I felt that when you made that comment, I was like, yeah, I have a fantasy and a sci-fi, and it's one of those things where I know where the story is going to go, and I know the story is about. It's mainly about 2 people, but it's really about the group, and so I want to tell everybody's story, and I'm just like, but should I be doing this because it's crazy at this point, and it's it's a lot. Y'all know because y'all all write it, so you know what I'm saying. It's like it's a lot. You start to think, is it too convoluted? Is it too convoluted for me? Someone who loves fantasy and sci-fi and all the characters and all the side quests and everything like that. So
yeah.
I'm like, if it's too convoluted for me, I definitely need to dial it back.
I'm gonna say no,
Refocus.
because have you seen or read The Expanse?
I've seen The Expanse. I love it. I love story. I love that.
There are 9 books, and you know how many characters there are. There are the core characters, and we get to know them in the first book. And then each of those books introduces new characters, and some of them stay around, and some of them don't. And that follows for 9 books.
Yes.
You can do that. I believe in you. I believe in me.
I have to keep, and it's the patience to do it, because I do have these projects where I'm like, I love these projects so much, I can't just put it out, and so taking my time is part of the process because I want it to be done right,
Mhm.
and I know that some people are like, no, just write the thing and put it out, and I'm like, I have other things that I can just write it and put it out that aren't so precious to me, if that makes sense. And I don't mind doing that with them, where I'm like, oh, this is really good and it's fun, and I'm okay if people see it. But then there's some things I'm like, I don't want this out until it's the way that I want it, because I love this one. And I have like 3 that are like that. And I'm just like, I want it to meet an expectation that it just needs to be right. I know what I want it to be, and and I can't put it out there until it is that.
Yeah.
And hopefully it won't take the rest of my life to do it.
No.
I'm hoping that it won't, but sometimes it feels like it is.
I know.
I do wish that I could ask James S.A. Corey about his process for that, and how long did it take you? How much had you drafted? Like, did you draft everything all at once and then go back and untangle it? If not, how? Because I was really identifying with the questions for discovery writers about the foreshadowing.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Because, and the fact that, like, hey, you can work it back in, it's harder to work it out though.
Right.
So to just go through, write the thing, and then go back and add your red herrings, add your foreshadowing. How many times, like, at least starting to sprinkle it in 3 times, paying attention to, like, the reader notices what the character's noticing. So you can misdirect very easily with that.
Yeah.
And I found that helpful. I did, as a sidebar, make a couple notes of some of the jokes that he made that I thought were hysterical. Starting with the chat about the 2-star reviews.
Yes. I don't like this author. I wanted to love the book, but the author.
Like, not even like 10 minutes in, and I was cackling about something not related at all.
Oh, that's so
That was
funny.
good. And the Dances with Smurfs comment.
Yes.
I've heard that before. Yeah, that was so funny.
That's good.
Yep. Yeah, there were some good ones. I really enjoyed this lecture. I don't know if it's like hearing other people's questions and knowing that other people have some of the same questions that even I have after, doing this for a few years now. So I thought this was a really good one. I liked a lot of his explanations. And I like that he says a couple of times to fix it in post. And so I actually made that as a note, because I have to tell myself sometimes you just do need to just write it first and then you can fix it. Because I will find myself like, I can't move on to the next line until I fix all of these things that are now ruminating in my head. It's like, I could keep writing, but I'm not, because now I'm fixated on these things that I want to fix right now.
Yeah.
I almost cackle when he said to the guy, that is a problem for future you, and I'm like,
yes.
I say that constantly to myself, and future me is constantly on a beef with my past self.
Yeah.
But
it's like,
also,
why did you do this to me?
So validating to hear that, like, from someone so successful, to be like, that is not a you problem right now.
Yeah.
I'm like, see, future Esther, it is your problem, not mine.
Not mine. It's not my problem.
Yeah.
I did like the comment that he made about what to do with your series when you haven't gotten your first thing out, to make it a complete book and focus on making it like, you could just read this and it's still going to be good. And him saying that made me think about, like, one of my favorite standalone books, which is called Sunshine by Robin McKinley. And it's an urban fantasy. And I read it, and every time I read it, I'm like, but Robin, you could tell us more.
Yeah.
And I would love that. But like, hearing him say that, and then thinking about one of my favorite books of all time, it's like, that he's right. This works.
Yeah.
It's worked for me.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there was another kid who mentioned that he likes those extended endings. And I'm a person who also likes I call it extended ending, because that's what they are in a movie. So sometimes the extended ending is heartbreaking, and sometimes, like, I'm still I don't know why, but the end of the Lord of the Rings, that it's sad to me. It is. And I know it's supposed to be happy out, they're all moving, but because, it's sad to me, but I'm glad that I got it. And I like it, and it feels complete. I get a little frustrated sometimes when the war is over, everything is torn apart, and you just see the dust settling, and the people they won. It's like, yay, they won, and then the credits roll. And it's just like, but are they going to be okay? I don't know, because are they going to eat tonight? Like, what happens now? Is it you know, just because they survived this battle, everything is destroyed. Are what do they have? 10 days max? You
Yeah.
know, how are they going to survive now? I need to know that they were going to be okay afterwards. So give me a little extended ending. I'm one of those readers who was here for it. Let me know that they're actually okay, that they didn't just win the battle and now they're all going to die anyway.
Yeah, very. And then what happened? I liked the part about exposition and not having the butler and the maid dialogue.
Yes.
That being very helpful. Of like, yes, we don't want exposition, but also don't have characters who we're not following have a conversation about something that, like, we don't care about those characters, so we don't care about their conversation.
So why are they telling us, you know?
Yeah. And why
it's
are they
also
talking about the main character behind their back? Rude.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's when I made that comment that I was like ahead. As a writer, it's very important to know what kind of like exposition is for us as a writer and what kind of exposition is for the reader. Sometimes we just, and this has happened to me, I'm like, but they need to know. And then when I read it again, I'm like, no, I need to know. And these are the tidbits that the reader needs to know. Cause
Yeah. And a lot of times,
sometimes you just need to know more than the reader to make the entire thing work.
I've been on a handwriting kick because of that.
Yeah, I did enjoy that he said to make it important to the character because then is important to the reader. It's not because, hey, it's a cool world or it's a cool magic. It's like, no, it is important because it's like vital for the character's family success or things like that, or it's vital for the love of his life to survive kind of situation. And that, if the character has stakes on whatever you're trying to expose, then the reader, it's feels like the attachment and they want to learn.
It doesn't feel
I
like
when he said that specific thing.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like, and sometimes I worry, I call them the boring parts where I just have people talking. It's like, as long as if it's important to the characters, then it's not going to be the boring parts. And I just mean that the action's not happening or the big fight's not happening or, the characters aren't having their falling out. Those are the things that I feel like those are exciting. That's what everybody really wants to read. But I have to remember that people your audience is going to want to read these other things too if you make it important to the characters, and then it becomes important to them. So it's these downtimes, these times of dialogue, where there is no big action happening, there's no big battle, or they're not, the characters aren't having a big fight or a big breakup or whatever the situation. There's nothing big happening, but in these transition moments you can have them giving some of these expositions, that are important to them, and you're making it important to the story, and you can expand on your world in those ways. So it's a good reminder of that the days of the big prologue at the beginning where they just drop all those days are done and gone and over. Don't do it. Weave it in. Make it make sense.
I think too, like, you can share a bit of the exposition while the character is getting to know, like, while you're also sharing the setting.
Yeah.
And if the character sees like a newspaper heading, is like kind of, they're walking through the study, they're like looking for something in the house, they're like, they're even someone's trying to tell them something and they're brushing off what they're saying. The reader's still getting to know the character, how they respond to people around them. If maybe the person who's telling this important piece of information is the town busybody, and they disregard what they're saying because of that. You still know what the character said. You know that this person's the town busybody, but you still have the information that they shared, and if it becomes important later on, which hopefully it will be, you can go back to that and you can be like, oh, that was important. It doesn't have to be important immediately in the moment, but you can, if you're showing the reader something else while dropping that tidbit, it'll still be meaningful.
Right.
Yep. And I liked what he said about, you know, when you're talking about characters, and he used the example of Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, when you're, you know, you have these characters that are going to have this inevitable ending. The one I always think about is Thelma and Louise, because no matter what, you don't want them to have the ending that it's going to be, but you don't want them to get captured and go to jail, because that wouldn't be fair. That's if everything feels unjust. So they have an inevitable ending. I think with Butch Cassidy and Sundance, they're running amok and doing all kinds of crime. They're not going to get out of this. The whole law of the whole country is coming down on them. It's not going to end well. So you have these endings. I like those. They're expected, and as much as it's like, you know, even you get close to the bad guys sometimes when they're telling the stories from the quote unquote bad guys POV, and you almost kind of root for them, and you're like, no, wait, I can't root for you. You literally robbed everybody and shot people. Stop.
So there's a thing, a movie, sorry, that comment made me think of, and it's really, really funny because it's a mix of both. Of this, you shouldn't get the good thing, and then there's like the expected bad ending. It's Logan Lucky. I don't know if you've seen it. It's very interesting. It's Channing Tatum, Daniel Craig, and what's his name? The Adam Driver.
Okay.
And it's a heist story, and there is failure, but there's a bait and switch. But you also like you actually want that to happen. And then you still like get the payoff at the end. I won't spoil it, because if you haven't seen it, I feel like you should go watch it. It's a very fun story about robbing NASCAR. And but like, when you see the whole thing, the failure makes sense, and you're like, yes, there's a little bit of a disappointment, but you're also like, but I mean, because of that, everyone is still free.
Yeah.
And that's what you want. And so you're like, well, you know, if it had gone any other way, everybody would have gone to jail, and that would have been a bad thing.
Yeah.
Right.
And so you make peace with that. And I feel like that's a really good example of like, do they get what they deserve?
Yeah. Speaking of, do they get what they deserve? The shock value, deaths and things like that. I tend to not like them unless, I mean, if you make it make sense for the story, I'm okay with it. But there are some where it gets like that. You're like, you're reading a book or you're watching a movie, and you're like, that wasn't necessary. And you can feel it. It's done in a way that you can feel it, you know it, and you're just like, it didn't even make sense. But yeah, I'm upset because you've gotten me close to this character, but you just did this thing.
Yeah.
And you literally only did it to upset the reader. Nothing for the story.
I was gonna say Wash's death in Serenity. It's all like, you could have made him die. That's fine. But it's a space western. It's a freaking space western. Make him die in some giant battle, like saving his wife or something. You don't just
That
have
was the worst. That was the worst.
Stab him in the, like, literally no one cried in the theater. Everyone was like, huh? Like, that is like the opposite of what you want if you're a creator. You want people to be sobbing. You want people to be like, oh my God, no. But everyone was all like, what? Like, literally, that was all that was going on in the audience. What just happened?
Yeah,
Because
I
that was
remember.
me. I remember
Are you
that
kidding
very
me?
viscerally.
yeah.
Mhm.
I was like,
Totally, like out of nowhere, like what?
yeah.
And yet, we would all go to war for another season of Firefly.
Oh,
I
yeah.
was I was season, but after that movie, no, it kind of ruined it. That death
I
scene
want to. I
ruined it.
kind of want to.
Yeah.
I want to fix it. I don't know. I don't
I
know.
wish you
But
could fix it.
I
And then
still.
Joss Whedon knows he fucked up because he's all like, well, you know, Wash can exist in another dimension and come into this dimension. And I'm all like, oh, please.
No,
This
you didn't.
multiverse thing, it's not the same. And it's not the
Mm-mm.
same person. They tried that with Gamora in like Galaxy. You know, it's not, it doesn't work for me. It doesn't work. It's not the
Yeah.
person.
I'm still
So-
waiting for them to fix it with Gamora. I'm like, I don't like this. It's something I don't like.
I know. I don't like it either. And it's
I'm
just
like,
like,
you better find a way to, because they're like, well, is it fixed? I'm like, no, it's not fixed yet.
no, it is
Keep
not
going.
fixed. I
Keep going.
feel the hole in my heart.
I
And
do
until
like
that
the
hole
shock
is gone.
value though.
I like it when it's done well. Yeah, like
Yeah.
when they do it, when a shock is like, whoa, but it's beautiful and perfect for the plot, then I love shock value. Love it.
I like. I mean, I've always liked Game of Thrones, so I thought that was a really good example of how shock
That was
value
shocking.
works.
Yeah.
And
I thought Game of Thrones shock value worked until the last season. Then
Yeah,
it
well,
got
that's
the
too
last
light.
season,
The
I
last
was
two
like,
seasons were
yeah, there were some creative choices were made, and I feel
creative
like
choices. Yes.
yeah,
I'm
Yeah,
saying
like-
it's not canon until George R.R. Martin writes it in a book. It's
Yeah.
not canon to me yet.
So
That first
speaking,
season, yes, it was
First
like
season, yeah.
absolutely.
I'm
It's
sure
never
everybody
gonna
has
be
heard of
canon
the Red
because with
Wedding.
the reception, he's probably scared shitless
speaking of
to really
George R.
do
R.
something
Martin
like
writing
that.
it. In Logan Lucky, there is a reference to George R. R. Martin's
my
Winds
God.
of Winter, so
Oh, that's so
Oh,
funny.
I
Yeah,
I
watch
wrote
it,
that. I
think
wrote
of
it down.
me.
I'm gonna watch it. I'm gonna find that one.
me too.
I did like the comment. This is a sidebar, but I did like the comment that he made of thanking fantasy authors who write kissing books.
Yeah, that was funny.
I thought that was very
I was
sweet.
like, yes,
Yeah.
yes,
Yes,
because
yes, yes.
I enjoy it when well-established fantasy and sci-fi authors don't shit on romantasy or romance with whatever fantasy,
Sci-fi with romance.
sci-fi,
Yeah,
whatever they want to
it's
attach to
real.
it, because they do understand that some readers need to start that way to be able to expand their reading taste. Like,
Mhm.
not everyone can come to reading being well versed and super and read so diverse. Like, you know, just let them get their kissing
Yeah.
scenes and their smexy scenes, and once they get like really invested in the fantasy world or sci-fi world, they're gonna look at other books.
So they'll be
Like,
like, oh, that whole subplot. They're gonna think subplot. That whole sci-fi subplot was kind of cool, and you're like, it was a
yeah.
sci-fi with a romance subplot. But okay, yeah, whatever gets you there,
But
we're
I mean,
happy.
that's so huge though, because so
Mhm.
many people never read a book after college because the reading in college is so brutal and tedious and not fun, and it starts to feel like punishment. So to have something draw you in slowly and like be truly entertainment, you remember why you liked to read before that, and it pulls you in. I can't tell you how many people I've seen who are like, I started reading again because of romantasy or romance or whatever, and then next thing you know, they're like, I am now fully invested in Sanderson's universe, and they have like just mountains of Sanderson books. But something got them back into reading. And I really like that he recognized and called that out, because there's so many people who, are trying to shade romantasy. And I'm like, you don't know how many people started reading again because of these
Because of
things.
that. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
It feels very much like in the early 2010s that not mid-2010s, more, it will be more accurate. People started shaming adults from reading YA, and I understand that the publishing industry shouldn't pander books to an adult readership. That's been a problem, and that's hopefully slowly getting redirected to young adults. But again, these are a lot of adults that were tired and burnt out of like highbrow type of stories, and they just want to read something fun, to read something that they can just read in one sitting. And why it happened to be that thing that got them back to reading, or that made reading fun again.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's the
Which
same
is,
thing with romance.
yeah. I feel like that
this
might be
is,
part of the
it's
reason why.
ridiculous to shame people for reading.
Yeah, I feel like that might be part of the
Was-
reason why books like Twilight, that maybe we might be like, there were so many errors, but look at how many people got back into reading because of books like Twilight. So that's why I'm like, maybe not the best, but hey, I'm not going to poo poo on it. It got people reading. Some people absolutely love it. And I don't
Twilight
like
is
what
why
I
I
always
started writing
say.
books. I didn't write books
Yeah.
before. I wrote screenplays, and I read Twilight because
Yeah.
and I was like, I could do this.
Yeah.
Like in a good way, not in an insulting way.
Yeah.
But like this sounds
I
like
could
the
write
type
books
of
like this.
voice
Yeah.
that I write. Like I'm like, I write like this. So it's like I could do this. So it was very inspiring for me.
That was the first time I read a book that was more than 500 pages. So whenever people have things to say about it, I'm like, look, I understand there's a lot of flaws, and I do struggle to read. Like if I went back to read it now, I would have a hard time.
Yeah.
However, I'm going to like defend it with like
Same.
my dying breath and just leave me alone with my trash heap. Like this is not your
Yes,
problem.
and let people read their trashy books if they want to. They're reading something. Okay, come on.
Yeah. But it
There's
showed
some
me that
books
I
that are
could.
perfect entry books to reading, and it's like, just let them be what they are. Not every book needs to be the greatest
Highbrow.
literature
Yeah.
on earth. And yes, there's gonna be a lot of problematic things because humans are problematic. We are not entirely good or entirely evil, and that kind of like bleeds into fiction when we create it. Like, it's just, like I don't defend Twilight with my last breath. It's not a hill that I will die on, but I'm definitely like, if you like it, you like it. It's okay. It's okay. Like, it's not a problem.
There's
It's
a
as
lady.
I think I still have my original books.
I do.
Oh wow.
So
Box
I
set
do too. I do too.
with a short second life of Brie Tanner. Yes, I have it. Yes, I read it.
do I have that one? No, I think
Okay, hear me out.
I think I got it from someone else and not the best legal ways.
I think the short second life of Brie Tanner is the best book in the Twilight world. Like the best written.
Agree.
It is a very strong. It's short. I guess it's a novella, but it is a strong story, and I think that the overlap was good. She did a good job with it, but I think when you go through the whole series and you get done with it, especially if you haven't been reading a lot, like for me, I was not allowed to read fiction. So this was my introduction to reading fiction. And it was like, it made any other book more approachable because I've already read a book that's this big.
Yeah.
So
You can't scare me. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. So to me, I'm like, that's why it's not just about like Twilight, but it's any book that falls into that place for somebody. Did you start reading? That's all I care about. I don't care about what and the how and the who, but like you started somewhere and now you're here.
Yep.
Yeah.
Same. I'm just happy more people are reading, and there's something for everybody. And there are highbrow books for people who are like so far beyond it, and that's what they want to read. And then there's fun stuff. There's people like me, like I want some escapism. It doesn't have to be super easy, but it also doesn't have to be super hard. Drop me in another world and let me go on that adventure, and I'm there. That's all I want. I just want the
Yeah.
adventure.
I do have a
Yeah.
slight bit of shade and side eye to the people who want to read really highbrow books, but they only read like 4 or 5 books a year. Do you really want to?
Because there's a lot out there. There's more than 4 or 5.
That's true.
Right? Like I hear it, but you are struggling through that book is what it is.
Yeah.
Because I know a
I
voracious
also
reader.
I also have a little bit of a side eye to people who call highbrow literature to anything that is not Western style fiction.
Mm.
And I'm
That part.
like, I mean, is it really high literature or you just have a problem with the type of storytelling? Because it's just like structurally is very different. And to some people, like for me, a lot of like the Eastern style book fiction is a hit or miss. Most of the time it's a miss because it's just so slow.
So I think this also applies when talking about romance because Western romance is very different than romance in other places. And one
Yes.
of my all-time favorite romances, it's a movie, but was House of Flying Daggers. That is
Mm.
not does not have a Western ending. Let me put it to you that way.
Yeah.
That would be more along the lines of like a tragedy here. But
Oh,
Yeah.
when
but
I like from a
It has
like
a very it has a very pretty love story.
yes, and that when I think about romance, that's what I think. So like I have absolutely no problem, but I've been informed that I'm doing it wrong when I kill everyone at the end, and I'm like, but why?
it's a romantic tragedy, Chandra. At that point,
So I've been told.
according to our Western standards, because you got to add that tragedy in
She's
there.
like,
For
they are
those of us who
together
go in,
in bed.
Why is everyone crying?
like what happened? Yeah.
Oh,
Oh my gosh.
but yeah, I think I definitely more open to tolerate that kind of narrative in like a movie or TV style. Um, but it's just in books there's so much that you have to fill in your head
Mhm.
that if we're spending so much time just filling one specific room, I don't I don't I don't have ADHD, but I'm gonna be like that meme from like why? Why we're spending so much time here? I already saw everything. Let's move on.
Oh my goodness.
But that's just very like it that's why I side eye that type of readers because like it's not that Western style fiction is bad, it's that it's not your cup of tea. It's not the type of story telling that you enjoy.
Yeah.
It is like you might enjoy things that, spend more time, they ruminate on things. And I vibe more with Western style because I'm like, okay, I got it. Let's move on.
Yeah.
Let's go.
I I think there can be a good mix and there's a lot of room for that. I think my favorite story I'm like this with probably a lot of media and movies, but some of my favorite stories are the ones where there are the very unexpected elements. So I did like the part where he talked about people like to know that the twist is coming.
Hmm.
Mm,
Um and I appreciate that because I think if you have an overall framework that's recognizable and then you change something and then you change something else, you have that still, that expectation, but there's just enough surprise throughout. I guess that also applies to what he was saying about when you feel like your voice isn't distinct enough.
Yeah.
That you are sticking to the recipe is good, because then we know that you know how to like bake a cake, but you can add your own flavorings to the cake once we know that you know how to bake a cake.
Yeah, but you gotta know how to bake the cake
Yeah.
first. Yeah.
Yeah, so I felt that, like, another story that I really enjoy is called Stoker. It's a Matthew Good, Mia Wachowski, Nicole Kidman. It's a Western story. I mean, it's an adaptation of an originally Japanese film, I believe it is,
Mm-hmm.
but it has a very um 1950s,
I think I've
1960s.
seen this one a while
And
ago.
it's an odd story. It's a little disconcerting, but that's what I like about it. It has enough familiarity as far as setting, but that also makes me think to what you were saying, Esther. If the setting is established clearly early on, you don't have to keep going over and over and over again. Like, I don't need you to tell me, unless there's a specific reason for you describing that one painting that hangs over the mantle. I don't need you to tell me, like, you can just tell me there's a picture up there, the pastoral scene, and move on. Like, you don't have to describe every tree and flower. If you set the the genre correctly, if you make that very clear, if you let it be very clear where you are in your world and what the culture of your world is, the reader should be able to fill in pretty much the rest of it. And if you spend too much time on that, that's where we get into like the heavy exposition.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. I was still thinking, I'm like, that kind of like slower pace and constantly focusing on like repeating one or two things. I think I enjoy it more in like thriller and horror genres for media, because it's just like it feels a little jarring to like constantly being like the attention is back to this thing again, and because you're like slowing the pace, intuitively you feel more tension, because you're like, okay, things are not moving fast. Why? What if something goes wrong and there's no way out because we're just slowing so much? And kind of like that, I feel like that style of storytelling for me makes more sense, or I enjoy it more in like thriller and horror type of stories. But if you put it on just like fantasy or sci-fi or contemporary, I am gonna get bored.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I mean, that's something that he talked about with thrillers. Why thriller has to be a bit shorter is because with thriller, typically you're amping up, amping up, amping up. And you have to pull back a little bit, which you really have to do right before something big happens, to slow it down, to let the reader like catch up with it and build the tension so that you can get punchy again. But you can only do that so much, so the story has to overall be shorter. But what you're talking about and what he was touching on here is with science fiction and fantasy is how much we can rely on. Like when you read Asimov, there was nobody else explaining what a spaceship was.
Yeah.
So all of the groundwork had to be established in those books. But we don't have to do that anymore because we don't have to explain what a spaceship is. And if I go into all of that detail now, you're like, yeah, I'm not stupid. I know.
It's like, why are
Get
you
on with
telling
it.
me?
See, but this is also dependent on, because for example, now fantasies that are being said on cultures that are not European, they have to do that legwork because people are not used to that.
Mm-hmm.
And I completely thought of that because I am working on a um a YA kind of like Hispanic dark academia, and I remember thinking, oh my god, schools here in Puerto Rico are not anywhere near close to school in the US. Like for the first thing, they're not brick buildings, and we don't have lockers.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, I had to spend time describing the setting so people are like, oh, I know this is a school, but I cannot imagine the school that I know of from like my life experience or the books that I read, because it's a different country. The way that they build schools are completely different.
Mm-hmm.
And I think to some extent, we still have to do that when we're not using classic settings or
That's a really
classic
good
cultures.
point.
Yeah.
But I also think, though, to that, I would be really interested to like read what you have. I think that'd be really cool. But two, that you're not applying that to everything in the story, so it's not going to slow it down as much
Yeah.
when you're spending that attention on something specific and important within the setting versus like all your world building doesn't have to be redone, but some of it does. Like, we still know this is still happening on Earth.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that might be something. I know there's a couple of books that I want to check out because I probably because I want to write something like that, I'm getting more of that. But I want to write a fantasy based on Taino mythology and culture, and that is not slowly but surely there are books out using that, and that definitely you have to explain everything from the get-go, because even though it has like so influences from African uh religion and mythology, it's not exactly the same. They're not the same deities, they don't have the same power. Like it and even if you do Tainos in the Caribbean, it's not going to be the same as anyone in like Aztecs are not going to be the same as Mayans, and they're all of them are indigenous to their own areas,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just completely different. So that it's interesting that we don't have to do it if we're sticking to what already has been explained, but once you get out of the mall, you have to do the legwork.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think because when you're writing, I write some sci-fi, and so I always think about that when I take my characters to another planet. How much do I need to explain? Because I feel like there are some basics of science that are going to be the same. It's if it's a planet, it's going to be round. It's going to be in a solar. And it's going to have vegetation. It's going to have water. So is it a matter of just describing that it's a different color, what the temperatures are like? But I don't have to. I don't feel like I need to say this is a tree, but they call it a this. I'm just gonna say tree, and I might mention that they're using some type of device to help to do the translation. I feel like anyone who's coming into sci-fi is going to understand this, because I think we've gotten way past the how do they understand each other's language, and we've all seen a sci-fi movie, and so we all know by the time we can travel to another galaxy, come on, we're gonna have translate. We already have them. We already have where you can now use your phone and hit so I feel like even that it's not that big of a deal to say there's a translator. So my characters, I'm just gonna write that it's a tree. I'm not gonna call it a hipoko or something made up word. It's those things aren't necessary, I don't think.
It serves the same function.
Yeah.
It is some kind of plant life. There's
It's
flora and fauna.
With shade, yes.
Yeah, and
Exactly.
unless you're a botanist or a biologist, you don't really care. Neither do I.
Yeah. And talking about sci-fi, it just comes to my head. Like Avatar, the James Cameron movies are a good example of like making it different enough that it feels like a new world, but similar enough that you can just use Earth terms and people will get it. Like it was interesting to kind of like learn about the connectivity of the entire life of Pandora being compared to a network, because that's pretty much what humans understand at that point, how everything can be connected. But they are the connections are very different. But I was like, oh, that was a nice way to explain it, very concise for both the characters and the viewers.
Mm-hmm. I think that that's where like being good at making comparisons and metaphors is very helpful. And if
Yeah.
you hit the right one, like it may not be like the reader's going to remember that, and it's just like you don't have to go over it again and again.
Yeah, exactly.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
I appreciate the shout out. I am a non spoiler person, but he gave a shout out to people who flip to the back of the book because they need to know what's going to happen. I do not like spoilers. However, if a character is going to die, I don't want to know who's going to die, but I do want to know if a character, am I going to get attached to someone who's going to die? You can tell me yes, don't tell me how, don't tell me when. Just let me mentally prepare that someone I'm going to get attached to is going to die. But I don't want to know the who's in the house and the whys. I want to discover that. But I've already emotionally prepared myself enough. But other than that, I'm like I'm not a spoiler. Like no spoilers.
In a recent read, I was definitely like, this was a reread actually, and I was laying in bed reading and crying, and my partner's like, "Are you okay? Like, what's going on?" And I'm like, "No, it's just my book. I'm
Love it.
fine." Second time
Love
around,
it.
still hits me. That's
Yeah.
a really good book,
I
though.
was,
Yeah.
yeah. Like I enjoy when he was talking about like making your character fail, like those trials and tribulations in the middle of the book. I did like when he mentioned that sometimes it could be a punishment, and he used the movie Tour as an example. Like sometimes straight up undeniable failure, it's what the character needs to get the thing done that they need. Because
Mm-hmm.
I remember seeing that movie and be like, I don't entirely want this punishment for him, but I understand and I agree to the punishment.
Which
And
character?
kind of like Tor, the first movie
Four.
for
Oh, okay, yes, yes.
Tor.
Mm-hmm.
Uh and I was like, it and I'm like, I don't want it to be in the hands of humans, because that's just like the longer it stays in the hands of humans, the
That's never good.
worse things are gonna get. But also, this dude needs not to have her magical hammer so he can get his life, like, take all of his ducks in a row and grow up. Pretty much grow up. Uh, so I did enjoy that he was like, sometimes if it's a punishment, what you need to do to the character, it's what it needs to be done. And people will like it, people might not. People will be like me, like, I don't entirely like it, but I get it, and
Yeah.
I
I'm gonna
did
get
I
behind it.
I did enjoy the speculation that Captain America actually like moved it a little bit, and that he like knew he
Mm.
could, and he was like, I don't have to crush your dreams like that."
Yeah.
Yeah, that scene is always so much fun.
That you could
Yeah.
see just
Yeah.
I
like
love
him
her.
sweating.
It also makes the last movie pay off really good.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Yeah.
having that thing of like, oh, he can. And people speculate like, oh, he could, but he couldn't at that moment. And other people are like, you're like, no, he know he can. He just doesn't want to kind of like steal Thor's thunder.
No thunder.
Yes.
Yeah. And that reminds me of another point
Literally.
that reminds me of another point that Sanderson made. Someone had asked about, putting all of the good things in the first book and then feeling like you don't. And he's like, make the first book as good as you can. And then another problem for future you is making the future books match that level of strength. And I think that that's an example of how it can be done. You've got, because the Thor was great, and then you have this more that could come, but you're still packing that first one with all the good stuff anyway. All the good stuff that needs to be in that book to make that book everything it needs to be. Don't take away from that first book because you're like, oh, I gotta save all of these things. Put what needs to be in that book to make it as good as it needs to be, and then worry about the other books after, because you're gonna get better. We're all gonna get better.
And I mean, so much of that fuels the speculation, which builds hype and makes people more excited about something. To have like there's that that question, that big mystery hanging over, where you're like, I need more because I need answers to this question.
Yeah. And also, like he says, the payoff, like, even though the last movie doesn't necessarily does the payoff of moving you to the next set of movies that they set up, but it actually makes the 10 years of movies pay off. Like, literally, you're like, this is what I've been waiting for. So it doesn't matter that it took a decade. We're here, and I'm happy that we're here and having fun. And the future doesn't matter because we're finally here. Which, to their detriment, future doesn't matter after that because everything else is like miss, or it's a hit or a miss. But yeah, it's kind of like it is. It feels like the ultimate payoff, and like they put a period on it, and there's that.
They still made it longer than the DC comics, so
yeah. We have hit the 9:30 mark for us Eastern timers. So, any final thoughts on this lecture so we can wrap it up? My dogs have gone as long as they will let me go without going out. They've come to get me. So I'm like,
the last two questions that he had at an hour and 13 minutes, an hour and 30 seconds. The choosing between ideas, go with the vibes or the deadlines. I thought that was the classic one. Like, you definitely started out with like, vibes, man. Wait, deadlines. Deadlines. I liked that. And then what you should be asking your beta readers, asking them where are you bored. I thought that was the most concise, like, clear piece of information to be like, this is what you need to, like, narrow it down. What's the one question you want to ask your beta readers? I thought that was very on point.
I also like when he was like, writer groups might not be the best to help you with pacing, because not every writer is really good with pacing. So you don't know if your writer group has someone who's like stellar with pacing, but a reader knows. Like, they just like you as a reader, just as a reader, you know when something is not clicking, and a lot of the times it's pacing related. So that was like, yes, writing groups are great for other things. If you want to know if the book is what I'm trying to say, if you don't want to put the book down, you need a reader to tell you that.
Yeah.
Yep.
This was a good one.
Yeah, really good questions. And yeah, it's so interesting to see him just answering them like this quickly. Like, he just paused for like maybe 5 seconds, and then it's like, nuggets of wisdoms. I'm like, I mean, decades of and a lot of books, that's how, but still.
I mean, he did say if you haven't written at least 6 books, I want to say you're a new author.
That's
I was
funny,
like,
Mark.
well, I have, but I'm still new.
Yeah, I'm like, I have, but I still feel very much like I don't know what I'm doing.
I know.
Yep.
Yep. Which is crazy. 1 minute I'll be like, I've got this. I'll be writing and I'm like, this is it. It's going and I'm like, the words are coming. It could be the next day. I could go to pick up where I left off and be like, I have no what am I even doing? Like totally different from yesterday. I'm like, and I'll be just like, this is trash.
Yeah.
I can't do words.
But I think he said it in one of his earlier lectures of like that is the double-edged sword of early success is when you have like a smash hit first book. You don't have your own process. You don't know what your real style is yet. If you want to do something different, you feel like, no, I have this standard that I've set up here that I have to live up to, and you don't have anything else to go on except for that thing. And it's like, what am I supposed to do?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Writer problems. All right, guys, let's wrap it up there. Thank you all so much. Anybody got anything coming up that they want to let folks know about before we head out?
I will be on AWC next Sunday. I'll be presenting on writing short fiction for challenges.
Awesome.
Nice.
Yes, I think if you search hashtag AWC, you should be able to find all of those things. So yes, that's going to be very exciting.
Yeah. I'm just gonna be around.
Well,
Same.
I am back in the drafting. I mean, I'm not started. Definitely, I look at my document. I'm like, how do I do this again? So, I am in a deadline, less brutal than the one before, so I should survive. The
Yeah.
other one almost killed me.
Fortunately, I have no more deadlines, but I just got to get back on the ball. No deadlines, but I got to get back. I got to get back into it because I have still so
I
many
have
things.
two more deadlines. Both of them have pre-order dates, so I'm like,
Oh, the anxiety, the secondhand anxiety I got hearing you for your 2 pre-orders.
I
yeah.
believe in you.
So it is what it is. This is the unglamorous life of an author.
Yeah. All right, friends, we will be back in 2 weeks. On Monday, I think it's always 7:00. Was it always 7:00? Because I put 7:00 and I thought, was that right? So 7:00 Eastern.
Yes.
We'll be back in 2 weeks. We'll be doing lecture number 5. I think he said that we're having a guest come in with him on this one. It's starting to blur. The end of the lecture is starting to blur. But we will be back with lecture number 5 in 2 weeks. Thank you all so much for coming and hanging out with us. And if you want, you can leave your comments down in the comment section. And if you have questions, I suggest going to Brandon Sanderson's channel, finding one of his videos and asking him a question. That would be so cool if he answered somebody's question. So that would be awesome. That is my best suggestion. If there's something that he said that you're like, I wonder, or just something that you just really want to know, ask him. He seems like the kind of person who really likes to answer people's questions. So there you are. Thank you all so much. We're going to say bye.